Welcome to the Ordinary Doula podcast with Angie Rozier, hosted by Birth Learning, where we help prepare folks for labor and birth with expertise coming from 20 years of experience in a busy doula practice, helping thousands of people prepare for labor, providing essential knowledge and tools for positive and empowering birth experiences.
Welcome to the Ordinary Doula podcast. My name is Angie Rozier, your host, and we are sponsored by Birth Learning. Today's podcast, we have a special guest and a special topic too. There's a lot of preparation folks do for the day that they have a baby and the labor process and birth procedures, but then we have all these days, weeks, and months that we have the baby in our life. So we're going to talk about preparation for postpartum. And what people can do to kind of transition that, and specifically the nighttime. So we have with us today Angela Haymond. She is a postpartum doula, specifically focused on nighttime care of babies for families. So Angela, I'll let you introduce yourself a little bit. We've had her on the podcast before. She has some pretty incredible stories, but we're going to kind of focus on her current career, or a piece of it anyway. And she's going to introduce herself, tell us a little bit about her role as a postpartum doula. Angela, go for it.
Okay. My name is Angela Haymond. Like Angie said, I am a postpartum night doula. I have been doing this for 9.5, almost 10 years. I actually started with Angie's group, and then in 2017 branched out and started my own business called The Goodnight Nanny. And then since then I have 6 ladies working for me, six and a half, because Angie helps out once in a while, that help out with me. And oh my gosh, it's just my passion. I cannot believe how much I love helping people take care of their babies and help teaching them how to have them sleep and just normal infant behavior. I call it my dream job that I never knew I wanted.
Very cool. Awesome. So tell me some basics of what a postpartum night doula. We have postpartum day help and postpartum night help. And we're going to focus on the nighttime. So tell me kind of basically, what does a postpartum night doula, if somebody was having someone to come to their home at night and help them, what can they expect?
I can speak to my group and what we do. I think everyone has different little tweaks, but I always say that we are parent-led support. So those mom and dad made that baby, they get to choose how they get to choose what method they want at night, whether it's co-sleeping, nursing, pumping, formula. We're there to support them and then offer if we can see it maybe going in a direction that might not end well, we can be like, oh, how about this? And we have this question, and help them with the tips that they need to have ultimately a baby that sleeps through the night. Like, that's our goal. It's like, give mom and dad and baby the most sleep they can possibly get, because they've been through a lot and it takes sleep to recover. I always say, if you're not sleeping, you're not recovering. So we go to the house of the families and we take care of the baby throughout the night, and hoping that the things that we do will feed into the nights that we're not there, because rarely do people have us come 7 nights a week. And so we're hoping to teach the baby and the parents habits, so on the nights we're not there, they're getting just as much sleep as they did on the nights we are there.
Okay. So, I know, like, babies sleeping through the night, that's dreamy sounding. How realistic is that? Like, we don't expect that on day 1 or day 2 or week 2 or week 3. Have you seen a general pattern? And I know a lot of factors come into this, like, with breastfeeding especially. Sometimes, if we have babies who sleep all the way through the night, that can impact milk supply for those who are breastfeeding. So tell us a little bit about a time frame when people can realistically expect their baby to sleep through the night. And through the night might not mean a solid 8 hours.
Yeah.
It's subjective, right? But tell us about time frames.
Gosh, I think that there's so many variables that go into it, because sometimes it's about the goals of the parents, and um how often, like, because some parents are okay like letting the baby sleep as long as they want, and then just when they wake up we feed them, and some are like, I need to nurse every 3 hours, especially while I'm establishing my milk supply. But then I think a lot is the baby's personality. Like, we have babies that are 12 to 16 weeks old that are still waking up every 3 hours. And then this year alone, I've had two babies who were sleeping truly through the night by 3 weeks old.
Wow, that's
We're
unusual.
talking like 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. through the night.
Wow. Were they
Yeah, and
breastfed babies?
breastfed. Both of them were breastfed
And
babies.
milk supply was okay?
Yeah, the mom would have to wake up once in the night to pump,
Mhm.
sometimes twice. Just I call it their boob alarm. When your boob alarm
Mhm.
goes off, then you wake up and pump. And so they were still keeping their milk supply up, but also not disrupting the habit that the baby had of sleeping
Mhm.
through the
Okay.
night and getting, like, we're just like forming habits and trying to make them go. But like, overall, um, I would say 16 weeks is usually the earliest that you can
Mhm.
expect that. And I also do cried out sleep training, which I know can be controversial, and that's okay because some people are okay with it and some people aren't. But I will not do that before 16 weeks because of
Mhm.
object permanence and babies just needing that love and attention and, honestly, the nourishment.
Right.
Because, like we said, every baby has a different personality and different needs. And
Yeah.
so I would say, don't be worried if your baby's not sleeping through the night before 16 weeks. And
Okay.
even then, sometimes it takes longer.
Yeah. Some babies that are closer to a year before they
Yes,
get that kind of
exactly.
sleep. Yeah.
It really does. There's things that you can do to help encourage it, but also sometimes parents are fine with it. They like to
Yeah.
spend time with their babies at night, and
Yeah.
it just depends on what works for your family. There's no wrong way to do it.
So you don't go in with a specific recipe for every family.
No.
I love the parent led. What I think is amazing in doing postpartum work, and it's really never failed, is you go in and the parents, whatever they say is right. Like they're gonna say, okay, the baby does this and this. Like they'll kind of tell you what to expect and they nail it. So they know their babies, and they're just looking for that extra support. Sometimes we work with first time parents, right? So tell me about working with first time parents and how you might guide them through some tips. What are some tips to look for healthy sleep behaviors for babies and for parents? Because sometimes, even when we have a good sleeper of a baby,
Mhm.
parents aren't able to get good rest. So, how do you
Yeah.
address that in
It's
those first time parents?
okay. So, we do something on my team called sleep cueing that helps teach babies the habits that they need to be able to sleep longer, and to teach themselves that they can sleep longer. And I'm going to say this with the caveat that milk supply has been established, that so this is not like on, well, some of them are on day one, but uh there's some, like, those first 2 weeks can be a little bit different than the
Right.
2 weeks after that.
Yep.
So I'll just talk about all of this as if milk supply has been established, baby's a good nurser or a good bottle feeder, and they're good to go. So the first thing we do is turn off all lights. There's no lights on in the room. Um, I really encourage a white noise machine of some kind that is on the same noise every night. Babies love routines. They love routines so much so that I'll even tell parents, put your baby in the same swaddle every single night, in a different swaddle than they nap in, because they recognize that as a cue. Oh, this is the time when I'm going to sleep longer than I usually sleep.
Hmm.
Um, Also, I think we need to give babies more credit than we do. Sometimes, especially as a first time parent, you hear the baby make the tiniest little noise and you run up and run over and, like, either pick them up or put their binky in, or like, just, they're making a noise, so something needs to be done. And we always say that we let the baby try to self-soothe. And it's hard to say how much time, because that again plays into baby's personality. It could be anywhere from 30 seconds to 10 minutes. It is completely normal for a baby to be grunting and making noises while they're sleeping. That does not mean that they're awake or that they're hungry. And so but you know that point when they're like, okay, this is getting inconsolable and they need some kind of intervention. And I think that oftentimes you're very surprised by how well your baby can go back to sleep. Um, and then another thing we do is a super tight swaddle, just to combat that moral reflex where they're like jerking and waking themselves up.
Mm-hmm.
And then if baby cannot self-soothe after whatever amount, we'll say it's like 1 minute and baby is obviously crying and unable to self-soothe. At that point, we put their pacifier in their mouth if they have one, and and we'll try that like a few times. But if it's clear that the pacifier is not soothing them, then at that point we'll pick them up, put the pacifier in their mouth, and do a gentle bum pat. I like to steer away from like bouncing on the yoga ball and rocking, heavy rocking, because every variable you introduce to a baby, they start to expect it. And
Mm-hmm.
so if you're just doing a gentle
Keep it
bum pat,
simple.
yeah, exactly. If you're doing a gentle bum pat, then they're like, oh, that's my cue to go back to sleep. And I recommend do that at bedtime as well. Like
They know.
just
Yeah.
don't do huge bouncing and huge rocking, just gentle bum pat. These are all things that are babies like, oh, when mom or dad does that, that means it's time for me to go back to sleep. And then if that doesn't work, then baby's truly hungry and it's
Mm-hmm.
time to feed the baby. But I also say after, again, milk supply is established, baby's a good latcher, a good eater, that you never wake a sleeping baby unless there's a reason that the
Mm-hmm.
pediatrician has told you. Because if you wake a sleeping baby, then you're teaching them to wake up, then rather than teaching them to sleep. And again, this is all based on like nighttime and trying to
Mm-hmm.
establish those routines.
Right, right. I love that. And I've often found in my work, my postpartum night work specifically, same thing, a rhythmic patting. I think that rhythm, I pat their back, pat their bum, like, yep, that helps them to go back to sleep. Very cool. What next question? So, what are a lot of parents, what do you think they value most from your services? Like what seems to be, um, what do they enjoy the most?
I would say by and large, the biggest feedback I get is they all say it in different ways, but the way I would say it is that they get to sleep with both ears shut.
Mm.
They don't
They
need to
can
sleep with
calmly
one ear
sleep.
open.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
They
Okay.
turn off their monitor. They don't have to listen. I think Angie, you're the one that told me they pay for your trust. And
Right. It's a
so
huge part of it.
so like we have, for example, I'm working with a mom right now. It's one of the babies that started sleeping through the week at sleeping through the night at 3 weeks. She sleeps from 9 p.m. to 9 a.m. every
Wow.
night, even when
Wow.
we're not there. But she still has us come twice a week because she has a really intense job that requires a lot of concentration and focus. And she has 4 kids under 5 years old.
Wow.
And so she's like, those 2 nights just let me get the deepest, most rejuvenating
Restorative.
sleep
Yeah.
that I can
Mhm.
get. Yeah, even though the baby's sleeping through the night. So I would
Yeah.
say that's the biggest one is they can just sleep with both ears shut.
Just confidently fall asleep. Okay.
Mhm.
And then tell me too, for new parents, and I've been in this situation before as a postpartum doula. I think it's really tricky. Um, I, and I hopefully, postpartum doulas are kind of on the same page about this. Like, we don't tell people how to parent, right? We're not
No.
going in and saying, you should do this, you should do that. So how do you go about guiding folks? Like, sometimes, and we have some folks who are very, understandably so, especially first time parents who are they're unfamiliar with newborn life, right? Like what that sounds like, smells like, feels like. There's lots of new sounds, and they're worried about this tiny little baby. So how do you guide them into understanding normals in the gentlest ways? Because I think we always want to leave parents empowered, right? And I mean, we're going to leave, right? We leave their homes. We're postpartum doulas. We work ourselves out of a job. Like we've never stayed till a baby's 18 years old, right? It's just that first little bit. So what are some ways to guide parents to be self-sufficient in this and confident, especially those new parents who are nervous about some things?
Yeah, that's a good point. I always say that I'm always trying to get laid off.
Yeah,
Um,
trying to lose my job.
yeah, I'm always trying to lose my job. Um, Gosh, I would say first and foremost, just verbally building their confidence, telling
Cool.
them, you
Hmm.
have great instincts, you're doing the right thing. That was the perfect thing to do. Like just even tiny little aspects of the parenting world, I think that, like you just go into it so
Build from there. Like,
yeah,
mhm.
especially a first time parent, you're like, I have no idea what I'm doing. But if someone who you've hired as a professional is complimenting you and telling you you're
Mhm.
doing a great job, then you're going to start trusting your instincts even more.
That's true.
Um, but then I think just like we'll say parents like, oh yeah, I'm waking the baby up every 3 hours to eat, because I read in a book that that's what I should do, and they're 8 weeks old.
Hmm.
Um, I would say, oh, I can tell that you really care about your baby and that it's important to you that they get food. How important is it to you that you sleep through the night? Like,
Hmm. Or
because a
sleep for
lot of,
5 hours.
yeah,
Yeah.
like a lot of times parents will say, is this wrong? And
Hmm.
like, okay, I'll give an example. I walked into a house and dad was on the yoga ball and he's like, I've been bouncing this baby on this yoga ball for 2 hours. And I said, do you like to do that? And he's like, no.
Are
I
you
said,
happy with
then
this?
let's change it. Yeah. So usually if they ask something, I'll be like, do you like how it's going? And if they say yes, then it's none of my
Awesome.
business.
Right.
It's none of my business after that. If they say no, then I'll give them suggestions of ways to change it. So to me, an 8 to 12 week old that's still waking up every 3 hours because you're waking them up, to me, I want to know, like, is that something you like to do? Or is this
Because
something that you feel like you have to
some
do for
people
your
love that nighttime cuddles
ex-
with their baby. It's quiet.
exactly.
Nobody else is
Exactly.
around. That's special time for them.
Yeah. So if they tell me that and if they say, yes, I love to do it, I'm like, great, it sounds like you're doing a great job. And they're like, no, I'm so exhausted.
Hmm.
Why do I have to wake them up every 3 hours? And I'll be like, you don't. Like,
Hmm.
and
At
here's
this
ways
age,
you
they're
can
good.
go around it. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
old enough now that they can sleep longer. Just like I really think that that's like the way that I get into their good graces, and it doesn't make it feel like I'm making them do certain things. It's just saying, are you okay with this?
Hmm. Hmm.
And their answer will drive my advice.
Hmm.
If
Perfect.
they're okay with it, then it really is none of my business.
Yeah.
And I support that.
And I find a lot of times saying and I feel bad when this happens. Sometimes I'll come in and get a baby to sleep better than it ever has, or put the diaper on. So simple as putting the diaper on. Like some folks, new parents, sometimes
Yes.
they're not snugging up those
Yes.
like
Or they're
diapers
like, how
fall
did you
off.
change that diaper in 20 seconds? It
Yeah,
takes
with only
both of
one
us
wipe.
2 minutes to do it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
And I
exactly.
think again, you're building their confidence is important. Like, well, I have done this thousands of times.
Mhm.
You guys will get here. Give it 2, 3 more weeks, you'll be expert as well. So, I love that and empowering them because we're not going to be there all the time.
But
Um,
that's a really good point because oftentimes, baby sleeps much better for me than
yeah,
they ever do for their parents. What am
likewise.
I doing wrong? How come the
Right.
baby
Get
what
that all
doesn't
the time.
tell while I'm there? Like, and actually, I try to preemptively let them know that just so you know, there's a good chance the baby's going to sleep better for me than for you. And the reason for that is because they don't care about me. I
Hmm.
call it sexy indifference.
Hmm.
I go over to this house and I'm like, I don't care if you sleep through the night. Like you can do
Right.
whatever you want. But parents are so desperate. The baby
They want it
can
so
smell
bad.
that desperation. I know that sounds so dumb. I call babies tiny velociraptors. Like they're just so smart. They know what they're doing. There is this one dad he like FaceTime. I gave him permission, FaceTime me during the night. Because when I was there, he was sleeping 8 hours a night.
Mhm.
And when I wasn't, he was waking up every 2 hours. And so the dad FaceTime and said, this is what he's doing. Is this I'm like, yeah, that's the kind of crying where he needs to get up. Like he's definitely sad. I said, when I am there, I actually sleep him with his head on the other side of the crib. Why
Hmm.
don't you try
Something
that?
simple.
And dude started sleeping through the night 8 hours again. Just like they are so set on routine that even the tiniest little tweak, the baby's like, okay, now this feels normal again.
I can
So
sleep.
it's just kind of
Yeah.
silly.
I
They
think
really,
another thing with new parents, especially who may be nervous, as a postpartum doula, we know babies make sounds, right? They grunt, and they're gonna
they
tweak
cry out.
themselves. Yeah, they'll cry out, and they have erratic breathing where they'll be really shallow and fast, and then it slows down. So I think that
They're
worries a lot of new
kicking.
parents. Yeah,
Yeah.
kicking wakes them up.
Mhm.
And there's And so I think a lot of times we understand that's normal, where they might sleep better for us in that, or we sleep better for them, I guess. Like we can rest through grunts, where the parents might be like, "Oh my gosh, like what's going on? Are they okay?" So just understanding normals, right? Just helping them
Yeah,
understand
just
normals.
normal infant behavior. We know, oh, that baby's grunting. I don't need to walk. Like they're grunting, which means they're breathing. So I don't need to go check on them
Right.
unless they,
Grunting is great. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Cool.
it's so true.
And I actually I think we could do a whole nother episode about this specifically, so I'm not going to get into it too much, but um yeah, I'm not even gonna get into it, but I'd love to do another episode with you about
I can't wait to hear what it is.
another topic that gets a little, just like you had mentioned, it gets a little political sometimes. So
Yes.
we'll touch on that. But I think a lot of parents, they like, yeah, I have read this book. I'm going to do this method. And I think I want to hear you chime in as well. Not every method that we read about or want to do might work for the baby that we end up with, right?
Oh my gosh, that's so true. I actually just was texting someone about this morning. When parents text me or call me and say, what book should I read? I say, read no books,
Read your
read
baby.
0 books. Do not over research it because one book is going to tell you the opposite of the other book. Trust your instincts and trust your intuition. The baby will tell you what the baby wants. And I just think that that's so important because if you read a whole bunch of books, you're going to get really confusing advice. And
Mhm.
then also you're going to feel like a bad parent if it doesn't
If
work.
your baby doesn't work to the book.
Yeah, because not only is your baby not going to be like the babies in that book, but then your second baby is going to be different than your first baby.
Right, right.
Like you're constantly just I have been working on this like sleep cueing method for 10 years and I have learned everything I've learned from the babies.
You didn't read a book either.
No, I have never read a parenting book ever, which I don't know if people think that makes me feel unqualified.
You got
I have based it on
in the
I have
trenches
babies and
experience.
parents' feedback, but mostly babies' feedback.
Right,
Baby teaches me what, and then you go to a new home and you tell those parents, this is what the baby taught me last night. Maybe this will work for you.
right. Yep. And you share, I think you share other people have found this to be successful, or some people will choose to do this. And so I think offering not, I always do this or you should do that, but here's what you could try. Yeah, other
Yeah.
people have found success here. I think that's a very gentle way to, and a good way, right? Let them discover what works for
Yes.
them.
And I will admit, even though every baby's different, I do have like a baseline of like, here's what works. Because
Absolutely. There's some
mostly it
patterns.
does.
Yeah.
But then sometimes you have to tweak it a little bit. Like that baby that needed to be a certain place in the crib.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
would have never thought of that before.
Right.
So
You learned a new thing from a
yeah.
baby.
I mean, anything you do, you start with like your base knowledge and then you have to tweak it and adjust depending on how
Expand.
the
Yeah,
experience goes. Yeah.
absolutely.
Mhm.
Um, so a couple other things, postpartum night work. I know you have a thriving business doing that. Um, if we could provide, this would be amazing, and I wish we could, this service for all people, right? This is an expensive, it can be a very expensive service. Some folks get a year-long contract, some do 12 weeks, some do 3 nights. Like there's lots of different ways to do this
Mhm.
that all come with a price, right? But let's take money out of it, Angela. And if you could across the board provide some kind of postpartum night support for people, what would be kind of high level best case scenario? Like if we like give me a little rundown of a schedule. If you could do this for, if this was a paid service for all people could afford it, what would be the best? What, and it's hard to say because there's so many different situations, but if you can
Like,
provide
what
for
would I tell
everyone.
the parents to do?
No, like if we could have a postpartum doula come, when would be the
Oh,
best for
like if
everyone?
insurance covered it or something, and
Right,
it
right, right. If it was available to all people,
okay.
what would be, not everyone's going to get a year. Like that's not necessary, you know. And I think in my experience too, like most babies are pretty good at night. Very rarely do I have a truly colicky, tough baby.
Mhm.
Um, and again, we're doing the right things to help them sleep through the night. But if we could prescribe, like, all right, if every family could have 3 nights that first week being home, or one night a week for a month, like tell me. And a lot of it's just learning, right? You learn from the postpartum doula and then implement the things on your own. But what would be a good cadence for if we could provide this for all people?
Well, first of all, I want to speak to the fact that there are actually studies that show that postpartum night work helps with postpartum depression and
Absolutely.
avoiding it. And
Yep.
so that is huge to me. I'm going to base your question on a lot of the questions I get from new people who are interviewing me. Like, what do most of your people do? That's what
Oh,
they
right,
say. What
right,
do
right.
most of your people do? And I, and that is an impossible question because
So different.
if budget's a thing, like I've had clients that do one night a week for 6 months, and they're just
Mhm.
like, they'll text me and be like, it's 18 hours till you're coming. I
That's
can't
their
wait. I
golden
can't
night.
look forward to it. And then some people who don't have those financial restrictions who do 7 nights a week for 6 months. And
Mhm.
but I would say, like speaking to cadence, I would say 3 nights a week for 16 weeks, 8 hours a night.
So that'd be golden service for folks. Okay.
Because I think that would give us enough time. Because if we're only there one night a week, that's hard for us to establish habits for the baby
Mhm.
because you're just there once and then the parents are there the other
Yeah.
six
You
nights
learn a little.
establishing
Yeah.
their habits. Yeah,
Right.
but 3 nights a week we can like help the baby realize, okay, if I make a noise, someone's not going to come running and I actually have the power to soothe myself back to sleep. Or I don't need to eat every 3 hours. I can eat every 5 hours. And the reason I say 16 weeks is because 16 weeks, and again, this is just speaking to my business, that's the point where they're old enough that you can do
Mhm.
some sleep training if you want to.
Mhm. And a lot of things happen developmentally, like looking from an IBCLC perspective, babies
Oh, yeah.
gain ideally about an ounce a day until they're 16 weeks.
Oh,
And then
really?
that weight gain shifts to 3 to 4 ounces a week. So it almost cuts in half. So there is some just developmentally things at 16 weeks that all fit this
For
into this pattern.
nutrition, behavior, object
Growth
permanence, all of the
patterns.
above.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And at 16 weeks, that's when the moro reflex starts to go away.
That's fading.
And so,
They're
I
not
mean,
startling themselves awake.
yeah, I mean, it can last up to 6 months for some babies, but there are a lot of changes at 16 weeks that either make they start sleeping longer on their own, or they have abilities for you to train them to sleep on
Hmm.
their
Hmm.
own
Yeah.
in a way that's not cruel.
Yep, absolutely. Perfect. All right, another question along these lines, because most people can't afford these services. And you've touched on it a little bit, but if you were to kind of give a recipe of success for people who can't afford postpartum doula support or night help, which is a lot of people, what can they work on in those first few days and weeks to get to that point on their own a little more quickly?
I actually do have a recipe because sometimes
Awesome.
people like will interview me and they're like, "Oh, it's a little too much," or people who I'm working for twice a week are like, "Tell me what you do on the nights you're there so that I can
I can
replicate it."
replicate it. Mhm.
Yeah, and again, this is like I said, every baby's different. It's kind of a baseline of things that are helpful. But and again, my focus is all toward helping baby sleep through the night
Mhm.
because I want mom and dad and baby to sleep. And so this is what I base that on. Um, Routine just can't be emphasized enough. Um, the same swaddle every night, the same white noise machine, the lights off, the same pacifier. Um,
And not everyone uses a pacifier, right?
no, no, yeah, not everyone uses a pacifier. So whatever soothing
That
tool
they've
that is,
chosen.
yeah. Um, Bedtime is a hard thing to nail down when it's a newborn. You're like, it was bedtime
Right.
at 6 or at midnight.
Right.
But
Or
whenever
both.
you choose bedtime to be, I always recommend doing 3 things before that bedtime that and the exact same 3 things every night. Not only read a story, but read the same story every night. Not only sing a song, but sing the same song every night. Um, those, if you do routine things that are very exact, the baby starts to recognize, oh, we're doing these things, and so this means this is the time I'm going to sleep longer. Because when they're babies, they're just sleeping all the time,
They eat
random
and sleep.
throughout the
That's
day
all
and
they
night.
do. Yeah.
Yeah, but if you only read that story, only sing that song,
At
only
eight
say
o'clock at
that
night.
prayer,
Okay.
only do that bath, only do that walk, like with rigid rigid routine, the baby's going to start to recognize it's not going to happen in 2 nights. It
Right.
might not even happen in a week, but you'll start to notice a difference. And it will feel silly at the beginning because the baby's just like,
It's
blah,
a
blah,
week old.
like
Yeah.
yeah, like I don't hear any of the
I don't
words you're
care
saying.
about
But
stories. Yeah.
again, tiny velociraptors, they're soaking it in. They're figuring it out. Um, Another thing I recommend is before quote unquote bedtime is allowing the baby to cluster feed as much as they want,
Kind
whether
of
it's
tank
at the
up.
bottle or the bed or the breast. It's like the same kind of mental game as carb loading before a marathon.
Hmm.
Um, that way you know when you lay them down, pretend they'd been cluster feeding for 3 hours from 7 to 10. You lay them down at 10 and they start crying at midnight. You know they're not hungry. Like
Hmm.
you can know that for a surety. Um, I mean, like unless there's like a medical thing wrong.
Right, right. But we can put off the next feeding for a little
Yes,
while.
you're like, okay, they're crying, so, but they're definitely not hungry. So let's figure out if they just need a self-soothe, if I need to go like re-swaddle them because they broke out of their swaddle. Like there's other ways to take care of it. Or maybe they just need the my oldest son, he needed the pacifier. Like when he was old enough to grab it on his own, I'd throw like 6 of them in the crib just so
Just
that
find one.
he could find it. Luckily, my second one was a thumb sucker, so that made it so much
Always had
easier.
it.
Yeah. Um, and then, sorry, I'm just looking at my notes because I just want to make sure to say all the things. Um,
You talked about dark and white noise, which is right, a routine.
yes, yes. I just and also like a lot of postpartum doulas, if you can't afford to hire them to come to your house, will coach you for free and
Right.
text you and give you, or at least I will. And
Hmm.
oops, I just hit my microphone. I will do it, and my and or my ladies will that that work in my team, and it's something I'm happy to do, like because we're
Right.
figuring things out,
Helping
and
people. Yeah.
I appreciate that it's an expensive service and that it's a luxury and that it's not fair that everybody can't afford it. And it should be something that everybody can use because again, postpartum depression alone is huge. So maybe just ask someone if they'll coach you. They might charge you, but it would be less. And so that
Hmm.
could be a way to do it. And another thing, I don't, again, can only speak to my experience, is if they can't afford to have you come, they will almost always afford to have me come to do sleep training at 16 weeks.
Hmm.
Like
Okay.
we can do anything for 4 months. Like we can
Hmm.
figure this out, we can power through.
Turn that corner and
Yes, yes. And again, those are people who are okay with like crying it out and that type of a thing. Um, but um, I just think like that's the advice I would give. Make things as routine as possible. And if those things aren't working, then ask a postpartum doula if they'll coach you and what
hmm.
that would look
Hmm.
like.
Cool. And sometimes that would be one night, right? You may pay for one night
Yeah.
and watch what happens, kind of see it. Cool. So, um, jotting my own notes down here too, which is cool because I'm coming up with other episode ideas,
Oh, I love it. It's gonna be the
which is
Angie and
cool.
Angela podcast.
Let's
I'm
do
just
it. I love
kidding.
it. You're a great guest. Um, and you kind of touched on this, how it can help with postpartum depression, right? To minimize postpartum depression. And I think, and speak to this a little bit, sleep is a part of that, but also support is a part of that, right? And
Yeah.
tell me a little bit about the emotional support that walks in the door when a postpartum doula comes. Like one of the first postpartum doula jobs I did, and I kind of just tripped into it after a birth client needed a lot of help, and it was daytime in the beginning. My very first postpartum job was nighttime. That was probably 15 years ago. And funny story, I'll have to tell in another episode. But I kind of tripped into some daytime work with a client who had a tough birth and was having a hard time adjusting. And the dad said to me, he's like, and I went a few days, it wasn't a long-term thing. He said, it's like the sun comes up, like the sun just shines bright when you come. And we know you're coming tomorrow at 10 a.m. We can get through this time. And it's just so refreshing to have you walk in the door because you're happy, you know what you're doing. Which was kind of, it's so simple, right? I'm like, but just having that, so to speak a little bit to the emotional support that comes, and really sometimes we talk to these parents for 5 minutes before they're off to bed. Sometimes you'll sit and have a long conversation about lots of different things. So speak to the emotional support.
Well, the first thing I think of is that mom I told you about who would text me and be like, 18 hours and 37 minutes till you
Till
come.
you're
Like, I can do it.
counting
It's
down.
okay. Yeah, exactly. She was so excited. But what that made me actually think of is like, I'm done having children of my own, but I'm considered a professional or a quote unquote expert in the area.
Mhm.
But even if I did have a child of my own at this point, I would still hire a postpartum doula just for that emotional support. Like
Mhm.
that looking forward and knowing that you have someone that's going to be there for you, that will listen to you, either listen to you and let you cry on their shoulder, or will take the baby and you can disappear for 8 hours and just get the sleep that you want.
Mhm.
Just knowing, I feel like when you're postpartum, that a huge part of that feeling, and I've taken no classes, this is based on my own experience, is just that you feel like you are the only one doing this.
Right.
You don't leave the
You're
house. You
isolated.
don't want to get your baby sick. You're recovering. You're feeling trapped. You are sleep deprived. You might be medicated because you have pain. Like it's so hard to think clearly and to have someone to come in and tell you that you're doing a good job and to take the baby and let you just like go and
Be
sleep.
you for a minute.
Yeah, and it's so true because sometimes you walk in and they're like, "Here's the baby, see ya, peace out." And sometimes, like, I'm like, "Okay, you have got to go to
Yeah,
bed."
we gotta stop talking.
Yeah,
You need to
because
go to
like
bed.
this is missing the whole point of me being here. Like
Right.
you have to go and get some sleep. So, but I think it's important to as a postpartum doula to recognize what they need, like and give
Mhm.
them that. Like you can
Kind of
tell when
meet
they're
them.
like, I am not in the mood to chat tonight and
Right.
that's just fine. Or like if they do want to chat a lot, you send them to bed and maybe call them the next day. Be like,
Hmm.
I wanted to wrap up or finish up that what we were talking about. And
Right.
but I think that dad described it perfectly, like a ray of sunshine just walking in, like it makes everything better. You know that
Help is on the way.
exactly. It's I I've never had a postpartum doula, so I can only talk about how people have reacted when I've walked in the door.
Mhm.
And yeah, again, they're just so grateful. They're just so
Yeah.
grateful.
Yeah, that's cool. I think likewise, like if I and I did my last baby, we had a postpartum doula come for a couple days, and
Nice.
um, yeah, and it made a world of difference. So it can be a benefit whether it's long term, short term, once, and you've spoken to the benefits of longer, but also for those who can't afford this service. I think you've given some really good tips. I think that this scares people, right? Like we hear that from our birth clients all the time. Like, here's what I'm scared of is being tired, the lack of sleep. And really it's brief. Like it feels forever long, but 16 weeks is general. You know, some babies it's 8 weeks, others it's a little bit longer. But this is in the big picture of parenthood, this is a brief but challenging time. And part of our goal, I think, as postpartum doulas is to lighten their load a little bit. So
Yeah.
cool.
And I guess I would say like never turn down help. You
Yeah.
don't have to be an island. No one's
Yeah.
going to think you're weak or a bad mom if they say, "Can I bring you dinner?" and you say yes. Like they're gonna be like, "Oh,
Hmm.
well, I wasn't really wanting to bring you dinner."
Hmm.
Or like, "Can I just come hold the baby while you shower?" Yes. Say
Simple
yes.
things,
Never say no. Never say no. If they're offering it, take them up on it because like culturally that's how we used to be. We were
right? We've
together
moved away
helping
from
each
that.
other. And now it's like in some circles, you have a baby, you get meals 3 nights a week for 2 to 3 weeks, and then everyone forgets about you.
Everybody disappears. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just say if people offer, always say yes.
Yeah. I love that. And for a while, right? Like our
Mhm.
society, we get back to quote unquote normal life way too quickly, and we don't allow for that physical, emotional, mental recovery after babies are born like we should.
Yes. When I had my first baby, I had a neighbor who's like, "You are not to change out of your pajamas for 3 weeks."
Love it.
And so I obeyed that. And then with my second, I he had to be tested for bilirubin like at a 3-day appointment after he was discharged from the hospital. And I walked out to my car and she came out and she's like, "What are you doing with your pajamas?" Like screaming at
Get
me,
on your
like
pajamas.
getting mad at me for not being in my pajamas. But like I just take any support you can get. Don't feel like you have to pretend to be strong.
Hmm.
And even if you feel
Absolutely.
strong, take the support.
Right. Still take it easy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see a lot of people do that. Like, I'm not pregnant. I feel great. I'm like, yeah, but still
Yeah.
take care of yourself and let others take care of you as well. So
Yeah.
cool, cool, cool. Well, Angela, thank you. Anything else to add as we wrap up?
No, I think we've covered
Okay.
a lot.
Yeah, it makes me so excited for the amazing work that we get to do for folks, which is, yeah, it's important work. So, and hopefully our listeners have, if they're interested in becoming a postpartum doula or using a postpartum doula or just want some tips from a pro, hopefully we've been able to provide all of those things today on
Yeah.
our visit. So, Angela, thanks again for being here. We will have you back again. We have, I think, so many more things to talk about, but we appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Cool. Well, thanks for joining us today. This is Angie Rozier with the Ordinary Doula podcast, sponsored by Birth Learning. We hope you have a wonderful day and hope you can do something today that inspires you, whether you see something, hear something, have an interaction with somebody else that just inspires you and helps you to feel awesome and amazing because you are. We hope to see you next time and have a great one.
Thank you for listening to the Ordinary Doula podcast with Angie Rozier, hosted by Birth Learning. Episode credits will be in the show notes. Tune in next time as we continue to explore the many aspects of giving birth.